Hello, everyone. How are we all doing? Are you ready for another session of general shenanigans in our Only Dogs Left universe? How are we all doing? Have a look at the little chat. Okay, so apparently there's only a 10-second delay, so that's really good. Like, sometimes we're on 30 seconds. So yeah, hello. Okay, so I will have a little of my pre-stream amble while this is going on. Hello, Emery. Last time we looked at character voice sheets and how we can apply them to their writing and like where their usefulness might be a bit more limited. We've got this live document as well, already in the description and pinned in the chat. There's been a ton of updates, lovely performance, quality of life updates since the last Saturday stream, including some like an hour ago that I've not had time to put on yet. So there were some performance updates. Editing codex entries should be easier, especially if you've got like 50 gazillion of them. Manuscripts scene hopping, we'll be able to see that where it remembers where you've left off, and that this will be able to kind of keep things a little more cohesive between workspaces. I know, like, I often go and I'll like answer someone's question and then I have to like set up my thing all back. So this is amazing, this update. And then there was some AI interactions revamped. So for the text replacement prompts, it was kind of the interface was given like a little bit of a cleanup. We can now like auto section things and just kind of generally keeping things nice and clean and tidy. I'll quickly go on the disk or the changelog. So the changelog for today's update involved some more scene separation options for when you import a novel. So you don't just need to use asterisks, you can also use headings to denote scenes. The continue where you left off function now remembers more stuff, which I've not actually had a chance to play around with. So, and there's some fixes to do with with stuff at the end of scenes. Oh, hello, Jean-Luc. Hello, memes. Oh, I'm glad you're finally able to catch us live. And Matty Spin Creations. It's great to have you all here. Okay, back to my... Hello, Joe. Okay. So I've got part of the document. No, I don't want to install and relaunch in the middle of a stream. So today's session, we are going to first of all have a look a little bit at how prompts are laid out in Novelcrafter. And then we're going to follow this up by making our own chat prompt that uses some of these features. Feel free to kind of follow along live and add these into your own chats, or make your own variations, suggest things. Like, we're kind of going to go through this, and I'll include just like a direct link to copy and paste this at the end if you just want the prompt. I'm going to update this document live a lot more than I normally do so that we don't all jump ahead. And I think like, or a lot of the time I find like I'm a very kinesthetic learner, and so creating the prompt myself often helps understand the concepts better. So if just reading everything or listening to the tape on replay doesn't work, I really recommend just putting everything in, even if it's just physically copying things out by hand. I think it really will help. So yeah, let's begin. Following the video on Monday or Tuesday about prompting, you might have some questions. So I'm going to try and break things down again a little bit more in kind of a less condensed format that wouldn't suit like a normal video. I'm not going to manage to get through everything, so rewatch anything that you may need repeating. That's okay. Stream is staying here. There's loads of helpful people on the Discord, and I've included a linky to answer any prompting questions. We have a prompt hub there, and if you have any questions about prompting, like whether it's about what I'm talking about or not, put them in the comments. Corey or Space or one of our mods will gather up any that I don't answer within this session, and within the main bulk of the session, and then at the end I will try and answer as many as I can. I think that will be the best way to go about this. Um, so yeah, let's get started. I think what I might do is open up the prompt stuff itself. Let's go on to Novelcrafter. Off of my story. So if we just go into prompts at the top. So first of all, you see the models page. With the general purpose prompts, we can't really, so with the general purpose system prompt, we can't edit anything ourselves, but by cloning it and duplicating it, you can see all the different options and change them. You can change, let me show you. So you can clone, and then now you can go, you can change models. So say if you wanted 4.0 Omni, you could go and click that and add that in yourself and the like. Although I think it's probably Omni Mini's probably already in now. If it's not, you can just use this to add it. You can change parameters. You can see what parameters I say recommend loosely because it's like the settings we've found work well, but there's no reason to stick to them if you prefer something else. Like this is very much a personal endeavor. Okay, 4.0 Mini isn't there because we've not got parameters yet. We kind of generally say like if you're not sure, just leave everything blank and see what the system says, and then go from there. So yeah, I generally play around with temperature and occasionally top P, but other than that, I just leave them alone. Like it's not, unless you really want to like fine tune everything, it's not essential to even understand what all of them mean. Like you can get most of it with creativity and, you know, maybe even the frequency penalty stopping it from repeating things. Especially if you're doing like an entire chapter at a time, I can see where that would be useful. You might also want to play around with max tokens to give the AI enough words to play around with, because a lot of the models don't reveal what their default settings are. We don't actually know if it's limiting it there. So if you leave it blank, it might be like, well, only give us a 200 token output. And so you're never going to get as many words as you want. So you can play around with max tokens. When playing around with any of these parameters, Corey and I usually, we will usually have a look and go on to chat and ask it to write about 50 words of prose with a given topic. And we find that this way we can test out the creativity without having like tons and tons of words generated. So that's kind of like part of the top tips. Yep, again, if in doubt, leave things blank. Like you can use the default stats of the model, or you can copy whatever we've put in the system prompting, because these are kind of settings that we've tested in-house and we kind of feel they work as well as they work well off the bat. Like whilst you may want a lower temperature so it follows instructions more, that's totally up to you and you can like tweak things, but these are always a good ballpoint. I also, the general purpose prompts are like the system prompts are there to give as many people as possible the models and the parameters they need. The first thing I do when I'm making prompts, like, let's see if I go on, say like any of these that I actually make, I just delete most of the prompts, like most of the models. That is totally fine. I mean, I haven't there, but usually I would literally go and delete any model I don't use. Again, totally fine. Like, there's no point in having things cluttering up. Those two prompts I don't actually use, so that's why I've not done any cleaning. And then we go into the instructions. So this is where I guess you use your words to kind of control the prompts. And the prompting, there are lots of ways that you can tweak these. You can simply add things in manually, or you can you can call up like references and all that jazz. So I'm going to kind of go in a very overarching kind of vibe to explain everything that's in the scene beat completion prompt. And hopefully that will give some ideas of what you can do and then how you can kind of scope out from that in order to build your own prompts. And then we'll look at chat. So yeah. So first of all, you'll notice that we have a system message, a user, and an AI message, and then another user message. This is kind of like, think of it as a thread of conversation that's leading up to the beats, and we've kind of artificially given the AI a response. So as if you're in Playground and you've kind of like manually edited things. The system message shows the overriding rules that we want the model to follow all the time. The user message is what we send to the AI. And then the AI response is the information returned to us. And we use this to kind of prime the model about the information prior to what we're doing. So in the scene beat example, we tell the AI what we've written so far. It pulls up those words, and then we give our instructions for the next chunk of text. So we have here a priming sentence to kind of put the AI in kind of like author mode. We have like the rules for writing, and we have these kind of prompt call features. So novel.tense is it pulls up the tense of the novel that you've set in the settings. So that will be in the wee cog icon at the top left if you're within a novel. The novel language is the language that you set your novel to be in. Some models are better than others at following this, so test your model in advance. Here we have the codex call, which brings up any codex entry that you mention. So this is kind of the prompt that allows the prompt to know about the descriptions of your characters when you mention your character by name. We put this here so it's always included in the instructions as well. These are all kind of there, so they're kind of the first things that get seen in the prompt, and they're just there for you. The story so far, this is to give context on any scene summary prior to the scene that you're on. So if you're working on chapter 5 of a story, chapter 5, scene 1, or let's go chapter 5, scene 2, it will show you all of the scenes in chapters 1 to 4 and scene 1 of chapter 5, like the scene summaries that are in, you can see in the plan mode or at the top or side of the right interface. And this is kind of the bit that can make things add up token wise if you do really long scene descriptions. But so it's useful to kind of keep in mind. We have here in the AI response, this is all essentially saying that if this is the first beat in a scene and the previous scene has the same point of view as the scene that you're working on, we'll then pull the last 650 words from that scene. The bottom bit is saying, okay, otherwise, just pull up the last 2,000 words. Some of your scenes might not be 2,000 words. This is an arbitrary amount. You can change this if you're working with a smaller model or you want to give it more context. This is all just kind of the base parameters that you can then tweak. We also then have in the user message that is returned scene point of view, which you set either in your novel or your scene. And then the context of the scene beat is, again, the stuff you put in the scene beat completion box to get this whole thing to come out. These prompt arguments basically act as a, here is a shortcut, please fill in all the data that I don't want to have to copy and paste. So it saves you from manually adding your codex entries and giving context of all these things. You can see if I go on to just like a random prompt, you can look at what these all are by doing the squiggly arrows. So apparently these have an official name, curly brackets and stuff, but squiggly brackets. So you do an open squiggly bracket, and then if you use the arrows, you can kind of scroll down and read in this section here what these will do. And so it kind of gives you an idea of, and then for some that are a little bit more complicated, you can see here examples of how to use them, which I think is pretty cool. Like, and it means so you don't have to look at like documentation or anything. You can just literally scroll through here and see all these prompt arguments. And anytime someone asks for one, Space is like, okay, I'll look at adding them, but there are so many different options, so you can kind of like get a little crazy. But this is how you find them and find out what they all mean. So let's close that. And a final thing, especially with the, let's go into the system prompt for like the workshop chat. You can see that there is a lot of like arguments here. If in doubt, just copy and paste them or clone the prompt and then delete all the kind of early text bit and put your own stuff. Like that is the easiest way to make sure that all your prompt arguments are correct. Okay, I think that is everything in the original part of showing. I understand that that was quite quick. Is there anything that you would like me to go over again or you're not quite sure about? And I'm going to have a sip of my tea. Okay, if you have any questions and you're watching like later, just ask them down. Totally fine to answer them. Okay, so let's begin and make our custom prompt. What I want to do with this prompt, like this is kind of like going into this session, my idea was I want to make a custom prompt that creates a codex entry for a character. My requirements were that it will ask me questions to learn more about the character rather than just kind of like generic things. And that in the end, it will write up a nice summarized version of the character. Emery says, any reason why those user instructions are separated instead of put into one? Yeah, so that's so you can get the AI to kind of respond with the text so far. So it's kind of giving the AI a chance to think that it is written in your voice when it's written the like when it's written the words before. So it's kind of like and then also AI tends to find the first and last bits most important. At least the models last year did. So I think that's kind of part of the legacy from there as well. You're certainly welcome to try. It might work without doing the two. That's just kind of in testing how we found that the prompts kind of functioned in general best. So yeah. Wow, I'm so clear. So yeah, so for this prompt, I want to keep this as simple as possible so that people following along don't suddenly be like, oh my god, what has she done? This is looking like a maths homework assignment and I don't want to have anything to do with this. So we're going to keep this simple. We're going to use minimal prompt functions. I want to be able to like refer to codex entries, but mostly it will ask me for answers and then I'll provide them based on my thoughts of the character. I don't want this to be a prompt that just creates a character from scratch and I have no input. I want kind of my own thoughts within the story to kind of permeate in and then have that come across and help. I will use prompt functions where it might be helpful, for example, like different genres. So like it can be like a universal prompt. Okay, so I'm going to, so I've done the first attempt already, just to see if the proof of concept actually worked. So let's make a chat prompt. The first thing that we want to do is, let me get this up. the first thing we want to do is prime the chat for writing, character creation, and the like. So we want to put it in a way that specifies the genre. If this doesn't work out or gives us too many stereotypes, then we'll move into iterate. We'll do some changes in the second iteration. The prompt function that we want to use is codex.get brackets open story genre close. And if we have a look in my novel, let's open up. My God, it's been a while since I've worked on this. Only Dogs Left. And then if we have a look, we've got my story genre, and this is created by just going on to new entry story genre. And that's the title of the codex entry, and then so it says post-apocalyptic sci-fi set on Earth dystopian. I might, for the purposes of this, just do this. I kind of want to, I've specified that it's set on Earth to try and stop like it going more into like a space opera vibe. So that's kind of why that's specified within. So this prompt function will pick up that codex entry, make sure you've got one so it's actually filled. We can always test this the effect of this by changing the genre or something and putting in the same character, see how things change. We technically don't need this as the story genre is a global entry. However, by including this within the first sentence, again, it's kind of priming the model, making sure it knows that this is what our story is. Like, this isn't a rom-com. I don't want, you know, like lots of slapstick or lovey-dovey stuff kind of suggested. And so it's kind of making sure that we're both on the same page. So, especially for smaller models, make sure you include this. Here we have so what I'll do is I will go onto my prompts. I'm going to go to text, to the workshop chat, general purpose, clone. I'm going to get rid of all the models I don't want to use. And then I will get rid of this because I'm going to add in my own. I'll probably get rid of this as well. And then I have from here, you are a helpful expert assistant to a novel author who is writing a insert story genre novel. Always try to answer their questions as best as you can, but don't worry if you don't know the answer. You can always ask them to clarify their question. Always write in Markdown format. Don't use any HTML or XML tags. You're very excited to help them out, and it's important you do a good job as it's crucial for their story and success. So very like the general purpose prompt at this point. Next, we then want to add in our instructions for what our actual story is, for what we want our prompt to be. That is not what I wanted. Okay, so next, our instructions. We want to make sure that the AI is asking open-ended questions and then actually uses the information that we've got. We also want to consider at this point if we're providing any information about the characters in advance. So for me personally, I like to have some idea about a character in my head prior to going into this. So I would write some kind of codex entry and then use that as kind of like the brain dump. Even if you only know their name, like, or their function in the story, their job, hobbies, or just the relationship to the main character, like is their sister. Like, just put anything you know in, and then hopefully we can get something out of that. So I am then going to put in our story, or in our prompt. When I give you a brain dump about a character, please read this information and ask probing questions that will help me discover more about the character. Questions should include things like the following. Use these as guidelines and ask yourself more questions based on the brain dump and story. So from this, I'll probably include the story out. I could include the story outline maybe, like if you had some bits, that might help. So why is the character called this? Do they like their name? Have they chosen a nickname for themselves? If so, what and why? Who is the character's least favourite person? Why? / what happened to cause this? It might not even be the antagonist. If at the beginning of the story they have no idea that this villain exists, it might be the neighbour across the street because they keep like letting their dog go on the lawn or something. Like it might be something like really inane and small, but who you like least as a person often says a lot about you, because it's saying about like your standards and like what you believe is important. And so kind of knowing who your character likes least kind of shows the traits that your character likes least, maybe about themselves as well. It might be a bit of double standards, but it gives you like kind of that idea. And then desert island disc style. If your character was on a desert island, what 3 items would they take with them and why? Please follow this up with clarifying questions about any aspect if there's potential for confusion. So this is kind of the initial brain dump. We've given some information. Then the AI is going to be like, okay, here's some questions so I can find out more. And ideally, these are going to be like questions that make you think about the character, but also show off the character's personality. And it might be that through answering these, you find out aspects of their character that you didn't think about, or that you kind of knew about but didn't have the word for. So now that we have all this information, how are we going to take this and put it into something cohesive, something that we can use in a codex entry? Well, let me paste. I'm going to use the second step of this prompt and get the AI to take the brain dump that we've made and the answers to the questions that we've given and then summarize the character. So we're not necessarily going to use all this information, but this is going to help us make an informed character bio. And if we don't like how the character is coming across, then we can change things. This line here, the last line, is there to give us that leeway. So I'm going to include a space between step 1 and 2 so the AI knows that it's a different step. So from the brain dump, answers to the probing questions you asked, please analyse the character. Write up a summarisation of their personality and hypothesise the following: how the character speaks / their speech patterns, how the character reacts to newcomers in their social sphere, and how they might react under pressure. So at this point, I can make changes. I might make changes. Please rewrite your analysis to reflect new information if I provide it. Another thing I should note that I've just realised when reading back, I've been using British English spelling. So if the spelling is different, like say you use American English, change that, like spell check the prompt so that it's not asking it to write in American English, but giving British English as an example. Just a little heads up. Okay, section 3. So the third step, this is literally going to be a 3-step process. Like, I want this to be nice and easy to follow. And so the next step is going to be just, we're going to get a codex entry out of this. In here, we can put the structure that we want. Maybe we want to test out lots of different options. So I want to keep something that's generic enough that even different stories, I have different codex entry styles. I can just use those. So if you know what outline you like, you could always include this in the prompt rather than just the open-ended version that I've done. So I'm going to go and pop this in. So now ask me for the format I would like for the character profile to be given in. Once I've given you this layout, format the information we have brainstormed into that format. If there are places you're uncertain of or that we've not brainstormed, make your best guesses as to where they would go and input your ideas. So I would get rid of like this, and then I would put now format that information in this way. So if you had a form, or if you just wanted it all to be put together in one paragraph or 100 words or whatever, you could then plop that in. Now, then we are going to have priming part 2. This is, again, very similar to the general purpose prompt. I'm just going to... Okay, it's exactly the same as the general purpose prompt. I wasn't sure, just checking. This is being done to keep the AI on track. The second part here is needed so that we can call up the character's codex entry. So the difference that we made was to give some capitalization here. Some models, especially like GPT-4o Mini, we've found, really likes things being in all caps. Don't shout at it, don't put everything in all caps, because then it won't know what's important, but you can put these little bits in. Something I missed is that the instructions I've given are all formatted in Markdown, although very simple Markdown, because I've not like bolded or italicized anything. But we have a list with subheadings, the little lines, the minus signs, and the lack of gaps between each point show that they're all associated as subheadings. And the blank line between each step is so that the AI model knows that these are separate steps. And then we've included the book context stuff here. So I've actually worked on this prompt a little bit. So rather than having you sit and watch and listen to me answering like 50 questions, we've actually got a little conversation here. So we have the character creation prompt test. There is no context, just that. And literally all I put was, I would like to develop the character of Nicodemus. Let me just finish this. Before I go through showing the answers, are there any more questions? Take a pause. If you've got any questions about the prompt that we've just made, or you want to see things, again, I'm happy to share them with you. Okay, hopefully the lag's not gone too much. So the first thing I notice with this is that these 3 questions are automatically just verbatim from the prompt. And that wasn't what I wanted. Like, I don't mind terribly that it's happening because they're good questions, but it wasn't what I was it wasn't what I intended the AI to do. And so therefore I'm like, okay, I need to make some changes to this if I want still for it to be giving different questions. Although some of these, like, how did they acquire their knowledge? Tell me about a significant failure. What's their most precious piece of technology? And how do they spend their free time? Like, I found answering that really interesting. So I'll put this entire chat into the Notion documents that you can have a look. But I kind of like, I had a lot of fun, and like, especially with the not working bit. I had this idea that he, in his free time, if he's not like working on repairs, he will often go out to the very edge of the Vivarium sphere, which is like the giant dome over the city, and just kind of like look out into the wilderness. And I just thought this was like a really like poignant kind of thing for this guy whose technology is his life. he just goes out and looks at this vast wilderness that's out there, that's kind of completely free of his sphere of influence, I guess, and like he kind of looks at it in awe. So the AI was like, "Thank you for providing me these details," and then now it's going to analyze the character. So there are some bits I notice here that are very AIism heavy, or like it feels like not the tone I would necessarily want to put in the codex entry, but that's fine. This is a good start. It gives me a good insight into the character as a starting point. So it's kind of interesting that it's saying the dislike for unsolicited nicknames suggests a formal nature, a desire for respect, and saying where this aligns with the choice of items reveals his practical nature, but also a hidden spot, a soft spot. This Arthur Poplin character was the person that Nicodemus liked least. Isn't mentioned in the book at all, book yet. It came to me when I was doing this, and I was like, because Nicodemus was friends with the Archon, and then they had a falling out. But I was like, I don't think he dislikes him. He's just kind of, it's a former friend. It's not an enemy. And so I was like, well, what characteristics does he dislike in someone? I was like, okay, so I've kind of come up with this like, this very slippery advisor who's kind of very much like the full-on politician, like negative stereotype, like career politician. So it kind of is very much against Nicodemus's principles and stuff. And so there's like that kind of vibe. I like that it gives an idea of what his speech patterns and interactions might be from the information we've given and the codex entry, and kind of how he reacts in general. And this would be good if you had no idea about the characters, like kind of interpersonal relations. Like it would give you a good kind of idea of where to go. Again, included some example interactions, which was some of them like, I was like, well, he's not famous. He's kind of a recluse. But on the other hand, it's kind of cool to see what it's suggesting. So then I can know what to take and what not to take. And I liked that it said that he would be like hyper focused under pressure unless it involves like a threat to something he deeply cares about, like Delilah. And then I was like, oh, okay, I can see where in scenes this might then kind of come into action. And then I asked for some additional insights, and I thought it was interesting that his habit of listening to the static on his radio and his visits to like the edge of the Vivarian sphere suggests that he's actually got a lot of hope, despite his very gruff exterior. And I was kind of like, I really like that. Just the idea that deep down, like he really does believe that there is something better out there. He just hasn't found it. And then kind of talking about the guilt. So I was like, okay, this is all great. I was really enjoying it. And I was like, okay, here's a structure for a codex entry. Give detail, but use simple terms, because I was like, a lot of this, like, it's fine, but it's a little bit overworded. Like, I just want things simple. Like, just give me the facts. I don't care about all the fluff, which happens a lot with AI. So, and it did. It gave me a nice little paragraph for everything. So I asked about personality, motivation, conflict, fears, speech pattern, reacting to others, reaction to conflict, and additional insights. And so like I thought, I was kind of like, okay, well, these fears and motivations and how his fears and motivations link, and how they are then influenced by the conflict that's happening at the moment. It kind of can give you some really good ideas of just where to go. And then finally I was like, okay, this is cool. I want to then merge all of this information with the stuff that's already in the codex. So to make a new super codex entry. So it kind of took the original kind of like the appearance stuff that was already there, and then added like the personality, motivation, and because it was in bullet points in the codex entry, it's then translated that into bullet points for this entry, which I like. For me, it was like, okay, this is a bit more easy to read, and so then I copy and pasted this into the codex entry. So I don't know what you guys think, but as a first draft, I was really happy with how this kind of simple 3-step prompt kind of gave me some ideas about, like, really pushed my imagination on the character. What do you guys think? Like, what, I guess also what feedback do you have? Like, so the things that I want to change, or like the things that I kind of noticed most were that it used the example questions verbatim, which I didn't intend. And I should probably also remove the planet reference, because the hint of sci-fi then made planets, and I was like, oh, okay, well that's not going to help. So I was like, okay, let's just stick to the desert island kind of vibe. And then I also wanted to think of a way I wanted the if I wanted to prime the codex entry to write more like me, or to use like a fine tune. I tried the fine tune, but then it started writing it into prose, so it didn't work. So then I was like, okay, maybe I can simplify the prompt. So we'll see what we can do. But yeah, do any of you have any other kind of like comments or feedback based on that first iteration of the prompt that we can then work on for our second version? Have a little look at the chat. Okay, I think I'm waiting. Okay, well, if there's nothing that people are explicitly saying, I guess I'll start doing edits, and then if more things come up, let me know, and I will. Oh, Jean-Luc. Okay, amazing. They're coming through now. I usually build these codex entries more like a list with more items. So yeah, so you could. So yeah, I might then be like, okay, put it in lists. So the changes I'd already kind of started were I'm going to change the first sentence to, like, please write using simple English. You're not a thesaurus, but an editor. And then I got rid of some of the like technical lingo. So in the first iteration, I was asking about like a brain dump. And so I was like, okay, well, let's change this to, when I give you information about a character, please use this. I got rid of the, I also said, example questions will take inspiration from this. Use these as a guideline and ask your own questions based on the brain dump, based on the information and given and novel. And then from the provided information, rather than brain dump, and answers to the probing questions, please analyze. So I kind of like changed a few of these things. So Jean-Luc was saying I usually build the codex entries more like a list. Yeah, so you could include like list like stuff in the when you give the third step with the changes. So if I go into my prompts, where is it? Okay. I'm just getting rid of some of the models so I can easily find things. So I included here the bit about using simple English. And then I've got here, just clean this up. What else did I change? I think, please read this information. I can't remember what I changed in step 2, but I obviously did something. Okay. This is all going to stay the same. Which character would you like to see me test this prompt out this time on? So I've got some characters that are more fleshed out already, like Kira, Delilah, Nicodemus now, Perrin. But there's also the other rebels. So Drew, Harkin, Kios, Oren, Ramos. There's members of different areas. So like there's Perrin's deceased wife, some other people within the Arcanical Cathedral, general people who work there. There's like a few different names. There's Mara, who is the bar owner, Zora, Delilah's co-worker. So there's a few characters. Like, does anyone have a burning urge to deep dive into a particular character? Let me filter by type characters. I mean, first of all, it means I know that needs to move to lore. Zen Monkey says, what about something like ask probing questions to reveal characters' psychological drive? So I add these questions should help reveal the dog. I can't ask about a dog. I mean, of course I can. I'll do that as a joke at the end, but I need more. Otherwise I'll just be answering woof to everything. The only thing I worry about this bit is that might make it too complicated, the answers, but we'll see. I'm happy to test this out. But yeah, any suggestions other than the dogs? Emery. Okay, I'll do one of the dogs while you give me an actual suggestion, please. Test 2. Mara. Okay, I'll do Mara after. Let's see what questions it asks at least. Okay, interesting. Okay, so it's been like, was there a reason that Ajax is named that way? Does Ajax have unique role or speciality? How do they interact with other dogs in the pack? About quirks, skills. How does he respond to other humans besides Perrin? Does he have a favorite treat? Has he ever disobeyed orders? And how old is he? And does he have any physical characteristics that make him particularly suited for his tracking role beyond his keen sense of smell? So interesting questions, actually. Like, I quite like the questions. But yeah, there you have it. It will even ask questions about the dogs, and kind of appropriate ones as well. Actually, I'm going to try using GPT-4o Mini, see if anything comes. Let's see how that does, so we're not just testing Sonnet. Help me out, Mara. So it's not asked as many questions. I feel like it's been a little bit, well, it's two. Okay, so 3 of the questions are from the previous one, so it's not followed the instructions as clearly as I'd want. Still interesting. I will repeat that with Sonnet. Okay, then again, okay, so we know now that this prompt, it's an issue with the prompt wording. It's still not giving us, it's still asking the questions that were specified. Again, it's fine. I'll have to think about a different way of wording it. It's asking about the management style, how she came to own the Rathskeller. Interesting, a lot of these questions are the same that were asked by 4o Mini. I feel like I prejudged. Okay, Mara could change one thing about her past. What would it be and why? What's Mara's most prized possession in the Rathskeller? How does she feel about justice given the theme of the story? That's interesting. That it's kind of been like, okay, well, where does she lie on the idea of justice being not black and white? And then the stranded desert island one. Who or what does Mara consider her biggest threat or competition in her line of work? And how does Mara react when she's under pressure? Does she have any telltale signs of stress? Okay, so yeah, these questions are certainly, yeah, I like these questions. It's still, how about Llama 3.1 40B? Yeah, sure, I will test that. Uh, 3.1. Okay, I think it's this one. Let's give it a go. Select prompt, character creation, llama. Okay. This has definitely gone more conversational. Has asked the questions again. Interesting that it's given a lot more. It's again asked about the relationship. But yeah, it's not giving me like lots of questions and kind of has repeated the ones that we've already got. But I hope that helps you. Space gives you an idea of the capabilities, and this is just like the I might just say, can you ask some more questions and make them more varied? Okay, so now it's got context because it has context of now like the Rathskeller and different characters. It's using that to help inform the questions. Okay, I like that. What is a connection with the authorities in Nova Bezos? What is she deeply passionate about? And okay, so there are some good questions there. Just kind of had to give it a little bit of a nudge. But yeah. I might have a little look at the dog questions again and answer them. Or not, given the time. But yeah, so this prompt, I will, 1 minute, if I go to prompt 2, copy to clipboard. And then what did I want to do? I wanted to give you the chats. So where's my Nicodemus? Oh, there. Okay. Does anyone have any questions before we head off for the session? Chat regarding Nicodemus. That is not the chat regarding do not copy. Okay, amazing. So we have a prompt there. There's the chat for you all. This prompt as well, like, could very easily be used. So if I was to take this prompt and change the use case, I could be like, okay, I'm going to make this about locations. So I might then change to, when I give you information about a location, please ask questions that help me understand the setting in an unconventional way, or through the eyes of, and then give the main character. Because it might be that a lot of the time, if you're writing in very limited third person or first person, there'll be a lot of things about the tavern that your character might not notice if, say, like the difference between someone who was like teetotal and someone who was going into the pub to drown their sorrows. Like they would notice very different things as they entered. And so maybe I'd get the AI to, I'd maybe ask, like, in the first step of the prompt, like, through the filter of this character, what kind of things would they notice, or like get it to ask questions about that kind of stuff. And then from there I'd be like, okay, well, let's get a summary of this location, like a description. As a bonus thing, you could always be like, what does this say about the character given their opinions of this location? And then you could then get like a codex entry to come out of that. I might give that a go. But yeah, so I thank you all for coming to this session. I really enjoyed making this prompt, and it's definitely going to help me kind of flesh out my characters a bit more. I'm going to go through it with a lot of them. And yeah, and just get like a clearer idea. If any of you use it, let me know, and I'm going to put it in the Discord as well as in the Notion document below. So everything should be there. Yeah. So I will see you all on Wednesday. I'm actually going to be doing multiple live streams during the week because we have a super secret announcement that's coming towards the end of the month. So I will see you a lot in August.